Well, ladies and gentlemen, after last week's epic three-part trifecta on the American tragedy known as Detroit, I know that you, like the rest of us, want to move on to something less depressing and less outrageous. So anyway, Detroit! Can you believe this? Detroit, which is bankrupt. Detroit, we just found out, where almost half of the city lights do not work. Detroit, where an emergency 911 call takes over an hour to get a response, if you get one at all. Detroit, a city that can't pay the electric bill or keep its schools open, is nevertheless going to go ahead with plans to build a $450 million sports complex in the heart of the city. Quote, "The problem behind the financial issues of Detroit has been a flight of capital to the suburban areas. We have to bring foot traffic and investment back to Detroit. This is exactly what it needs," unquote. So says Mark Rosentraub, who we should listen to because he's a professor at the University of Michigan, who, I'll go out on a limb here to presume, is not a professor of mathematics. So let's bring in Steve Green and Scott Ott to help boom this doggle. Scott, as a member of the Lehigh County Board in Pennsylvania, you have to deal with these kind of issues all the time. So let's say that your town is in ruins as a result of a half-century of strict Democratic policies under an unbroken string of Democratic mayors. It's your job to fix the problem. Do you go another $500 million into debt and build it so that they will come?
Well, you know, this is not directly related to Lehigh County, but in the center of Lehigh County is the donut that contains the jewel that we call Allentown, about which many people across the country are familiar thanks to Billy Joel. And Allentown has, in fact, begun to build an ice hockey arena. Apparently, this is the new template for Democrat disaster urban areas. They're building an ice hockey arena right now with the idea that somehow, again, that's going to attract people to come downtown. I think I'll go watch an ice hockey game. And when they go downtown to watch the hockey game with their family, feeling totally safe walking around the streets of Detroit or Allentown, they say, you know, honey, I've had my business operating out here in the suburbs on that beautiful green lush area with my lovely building. What if we come in and buy one of these dilapidated buildings, tear it down and build a new one right next to the hockey arena? Wouldn't that be great? Oddly enough, some are doing it. And you know why? Because there's all kinds of tax incentives to do so. There's all kinds of help from the state and federal and local governments. And that's why in fact, that's the only way that this kind of a system can work. Nobody's going to move into that city, Detroit or Allentown, if they can't get something from Uncle Sam or from the local city government.
I don't think anybody's going to go to watch a hockey game in downtown Detroit if the lights in the parking lot aren't working and the crime is what it is today. But Steve, when I heard about this, about fell down. How could anybody be this stupid? And you know, just for a second there, put aside all of the graft, the cronyism, the paybacks, and the political egos. Just put that aside. I know it's a big aside. But even if you give these people the benefit of the doubt, this strikes me as superstitious thinking. And then it occurred to me, it's kind of a cargo cult, isn't it? You've written about this. Can you help explain what a cargo cult is and why this is kind of an example of that sort of thinking?
Yeah, although first I'd like to say I think all these city planners have given up on, or have taken up hockey rinks because they finally gave up on monorail. Look, cargo culture in the South Pacific, they're a holdover from World War II. The Army and the Marines would come in, and the first thing they do when they took an island from the Japanese was build an airstrip so that cargo planes could fly in. And American soldiers, being American soldiers, they would share their sea rations, their cigarettes, their chocolate with the locals. Well, the war ended, and the soldiers left, and the airfields disappeared. They were overgrown. So the locals would build their own airstrips. They build towers out of reeds or whatever. Yeah, there we go. We've got pictures. To try and entice the cargo planes back. They're building their own airports, and of course it didn't work because we didn't need those islands anymore. Well, this is exactly cargo cultism going on here. The assumption is that if nice cities have hockey rinks or football stadiums, and so if we have a football stadium or a hockey rink, then we will be a nice city. No, that's not the way it works. You've got it completely turned around.
Exactly. You know, all of this, and it gets worse and worse every day. This is the most offensive to my sense of order and logic and civilization because an Ingham County judge struck down the Detroit bankruptcy motion on the strictly constructionist legal grounds that it's not honoring the president who took the auto companies out of bankruptcy. Yes, folks, there she is. Judge Rosemary Aquilina sent a copy of her ruling to President Obama and said, I know he's watching this. We don't want to let Detroit go bankrupt because it dishonors the president. That's a legal ruling. Well, Rosemary, maybe if you're very, very good and you say your prayers each night kneeling before all of his posters, maybe someday Barry will give you a phone call on your birthday thanking you for being his #1 fan, for your actions in condemning an entire metropolis, that's 500,000 people, to continued crime, lack of basic services, darkness, ignorance, and stupidity. Like all the rest of the minions who are supposed to interpret the law or report the facts or spy on the Chinese instead of the Tea Party, you're just a miserable, soulless political hack dressed in robes of authority you did not earn and do not understand. You and others like you are destroying Detroit and the United States of America because of your swooning, teenage, adolescent crush. You people are children. And they better get some adults in there right away before Detroit becomes indistinguishable from Mogadishu or Grozny. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.